Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
Hey everyone, really glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, we are taking you on a mission today. We are unpacking a massive stack of research on one of the Indian Ocean's most overlooked islands, which is Rodrigues.
Oh, it is such a fascinating place, totally overlooked.
Right, and we're going to dive into the brutal flight realities if you're coming from major global hubs, Sydney, London, Toronto, Auckland. We're looking at exactly what your money buys you.
Yeah, everything from like $42 USD guest house beds all the way up to boutique resorts that are pushing $399 a night.
Exactly. We'll explore an isolated, self-seeding coral reef plus three very specific logistics traps that, they just consistently destroy first-timer plans.
Oh, completely ruin them.
Yeah. We'll cover daily budgets that honestly make Mauritius look wildly expensive. And ultimately, we're going to give you the verdict on whether a $2,400 return flight is worth it for a place with, get this, no traffic lights, the world's smallest capital, and a cultural export of fermented honey beer.
The honey beer is a big deal.
It really is. So let's get into it, starting with the hard facts.
Yeah, because it is a massive stack of research.
Yeah.
And honestly, the facts paint a picture of a destination that is completely at odds with global travel trends right now in 2026.
Right, because imagine this. You step off a 90-minute prop plane, right? The heat just hits you instantly.
All of heat.
Yeah, and instead of a heavily manicured, air-conditioned terminal with 5 different luxury resort liaisons holding up iPads with your name on it.
Like you'd get in the Maldives or somewhere.
Exactly. Instead of that, you are standing on a single runway looking at a landscape that is remarkably dry. It's volcanic, it's almost lunar.
That's stark.
Very stark. You are standing on a tiny dot 560 kilometers east of Mauritius.
Just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the whole island is just 18 kilometers long and 6.5 kilometers wide. There are only about 44,000 people living here.
Which is tiny.
And here is the real hook for you. You are standing in a place that is actively, deliberately trying to stay off the global tourist map.
Which is such a fascinating posture for an island economy to take, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the Indian Ocean, where the standard playbook is basically build as many overwater bungalows as physically possible.
Yeah, just pave it all over.
Exactly. But here we have this contrarian truth. Rodrigues has a lagoon and reef quality that legitimately rivals the Maldives.
Wow.
And you can achieve a daily budget there that is cheaper than Bali. We are looking at daily out-of-pocket costs of around 55 to 75 USD.
That is wild.
I know. And yet, despite all that value, the regional government is firmly stepping on the brakes.
Let's set the geographical stage a bit more because you really have to understand how isolated this is. We are talking 19 degrees south latitude. It's a dependency of the Republic of Mauritius, but it has its own regional assembly, so it's largely autonomous when it comes to local governance.
They make their own rules for the most part.
Yeah. The residents are predominantly of African descent, speaking Rodrigues Creole. And if you head into the main settlement, Port Mathurin, you are looking at what is widely considered the world's smallest capital.
It's essentially a working fishing town. There's a Saturday market, a central bus station, colonial-era churches, Hindu temples, mosques.
And they're all right next to each other.
Literally within walking distance,
Darn.
peacefully coexisting. And to your earlier point, there is not a single traffic light on the entire island's 108 square kilometers of surface area.
None. Zero.
Okay, let's unpack this ecology because it is wild. The research we went through emphasizes that the coral reef surrounding the island is scientifically unusual.
Highly unusual.
It is a self-seeding reef, which, on the surface, sounds like a nice buzzword. But wait, aren't all reefs self-seeding? I always assumed coral just naturally grew where it was planted. Yeah, that's a very common misconception. What's fascinating here is the mechanism of how reefs actually survive.
Okay.
Most coral reefs globally rely on ocean currents to bring in new coral larvae or zooplankton from other neighboring reef systems.
Oh, interesting.
Right, so it's a massive interconnected oceanic network. If a reef in, say, the Caribbean gets damaged by a storm, the currents will eventually sweep in new biological material from hundreds of miles away to help regenerate it.
Oh, like blowing dandelion seeds across a field.
Exactly, that's a great way to picture it. But Rodrigues is so incredibly isolated geographically, and the specific ocean currents around it act like a barrier.
Meaning what?
Meaning it receives absolutely zero outside coral zooplankton from anywhere else on Earth. The reef operates as a completely closed loop. It entirely relies on its own spawn to survive.
Wow, which sounds incredibly fragile.
It is terrifyingly fragile. If
Wow.
we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains the government's entire philosophy.
How so?
Well, if a self-seeding reef gets heavily damaged, whether that's by chemical runoff from massive 500-room resorts, heavy commercial boat anchors, or the kind of overfishing that comes with mass tourism, it cannot recover.
Because nothing is floating in to replace it.
Right. There are no ocean currents bringing in backup supplies.
Wow.
Once that reef dies, it is gone permanently.
That puts so much pressure on them. And it's not just the reef, right? Inside that lagoon, you have 18 islets.
Yeah, tiny little islands.
Some of them host entirely protected seabird colonies. You've got endemic marine life like the Pomocentris dam sailfish. Up in the interior, there's the endangered Rodrigues flying fox.
Huge bats, basically.
Yeah, plus this incredibly vibrant endemic orange and yellow bird called the Rodrigues foodie and the Rodrigues warbler, which the bird watchers in our sources say you can really only spot if you hike into the wooded, higher altitude areas around Solitude and Citronelle.
They really have to go looking for that one.
For sure. Plus, major chunks of the island, like Grand Montagne and Île Coco, are legally declared nature reserves.
The Regional Assembly looked at their tiny 108 square kilometers. They look 560 kilometers west of Mauritius, which gets, 1.4 million visitors a year, huge traffic jams, serious coastal accommodation saturation.
A totally different vibe.
Completely.
Yeah.
And they made a legislative choice. They do not want to become a second Mauritius. The urgency to visit Rodrigues right now is that you are essentially stepping into a time capsule.
Right. Imagine stepping into a time capsule set a quarter century back, but with a hefty $2,600 price tag to turn the key.
It's a big upfront cost.
It is, because there are no budget long-haul flights. If you are flying a round trip from Sydney, London, Toronto, or Auckland, you are looking at flight costs sitting right around $2,377 to $2,600 USD.
Yeah, that's not cheap.
So I have to ask you, if they're actively trying to keep the masses out and the flight price is already doing a lot of that heavy lifting, how hard is it for you to actually get there once you've committed the money?
The scale of visitation tells you everything you need to know about the logistics. Rodrigues gets an estimated 25,000 to 30,000 international visitors annually.
Wait, 30,000? A year?
A year.
There are theme parks that do 30,000 visitors before lunch on a Tuesday.
Exactly. The infrastructure is microscopic. There's only one airport, Sergeyton Duval Airport, down at Plain Corail. And there are 0 direct long-haul routes.
So you can't just fly straight there.
No one is flying a Boeing 777 from London. Direct to Rodrigues. You cannot do it. Everyone has to connect.
The primary pipeline is a 90-minute hop on an Air Mauritius prop plane from the main hub in Mauritius, which is Sursiusagar Ramgoolam International Airport.
That's a mouthful.
It is. Beyond those few daily hoppers, there is exactly one weekly direct flight from the nearby island of Reunion. That is the entire air access network.
Which means access is a massive bottleneck. And when access is that tight, the weather dictates absolutely everything.
Oh, of course.
The island sits directly in the path of persistent trade winds. This keeps the temperature quite moderate. Summer averages around 26 degrees Celsius. Winter dips to around 22 degrees. But it creates incredibly variable sea conditions.
And then there is the cyclone risk.
Yeah.
The cyclones.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because looking at the meteorological data, the cyclone season runs from November through April. The wettest month is February, but the peak window for actual cyclones is December to March.
Right.
Booking a trip then feels like playing Russian roulette with your PTO.
It absolutely is. And you have to understand the physical reality of a cyclone hitting a microdestination.
What happens?
Well, if a storm hits a massive landmass, you stay in your hotel, maybe the power flickers, and you wait it out. If a storm hits an island that is only 18 kilometers long, everything ceases to function.
Everything just shuts down completely. The supply ships from Mauritius can't dock. The sea crossings to the islets, which are the main tourist activities, get canceled for days on end because the lagoon turns dangerous. Flights are grounded. Visitors can and do get stranded.
Okay, so if November to April is risky, when is the actual window? When should you go?
September and October are the absolute sweet spot. The data shows it is the driest period. The trade winds ease up so the seas are calm, and your underwater visibility in the lagoon peaks.
Nice.
Plus, you're avoiding the cyclone risk entirely, and you're sitting in a mid-level pricing tier for flights.
I noticed in the Skyscanner data we pulled that June and July are historically the cheapest months for flights.
They are, but the trade winds are much stronger then.
So it's cooler, great if you want to hike Mont Lemon or explore the cultural sites, but it's choppy in the lagoon.
Exactly. Not ideal for snorkeling.
Right. August is the coolest month, and it's fantastic for bird watching in the interior forest, but again, rough waters.
Yeah.
But here is the paradox that confused me in the research.
What's that?
How can a place that only gets 30,000 visitors a year still have a capacity problem? Multiple sources warn that July and August are crowded. How is that mathematically possible?
This raises an important question about bottleneck economics. When you have a micro-destination, you don't need 1 million people to break the system.
You just need a few hundred arriving at the exact same time.
Yes, July and August is the traditional European summer holiday window, but more importantly, it aligns with local school holidays in Mauritius and Reunion. You get an influx of regional locals flying over.
Oh, I see. So it's not tourists from Toronto clogging the beaches. It's Mauritians taking a domestic holiday.
Precisely. You don't have mass crowds in the global sense, but you have an acute capacity crisis. Take Cocos, the protected seabird reserve we mentioned.
Yeah.
Because it's an ecological sanctuary, the government strictly caps the number of humans allowed to step foot on it per day. In July, those small boat tours sell out 2 to 3 days in advance. The restaurants fill up, the rental cars disappear, the system breaks under a surge of just a few hundred extra people.
Which brings us back to that first impression. Let's walk the listener through this. You've navigated the flight connections, you timed the weather perfectly, and you step off that plane at Plain Corail.
Yep.
As we mentioned, it's not a lush, verdant, tropical paradise. It's stark. The highest peak, Mont Lemon, is only 398 meters high.
It's basically a large hill.
Right. And down near the Cavern Patate, which is this massive subterranean limestone cave system, the terrain looks like you landed on the moon. It completely subverts your Indian Ocean expectations.
And navigating that terrain requires an immediate shift in how you operate as a traveler.
How so?
When you walk out of the terminal, you have to decide how you are moving around. If you are highly budget conscious, the public bus network is incredibly cheap.
How cheap?
A ride from the airport area all the way across the island into Port Mathurin takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and it costs between 50 cents and $1 USD.
50 cents? That has to be the cheapest airport transit on any island we have ever covered.
Easily.
But there's a massive catch.
A very analog catch. They run on loose, whole-hour departure schedules, and there is zero real-time tracking.
No app.
You cannot pull out your phone and check an app to see when the bus is coming. You stand at the stop in the sun, and it shows up when it shows up.
Yeah.
It requires patience.
If you don't have that patience, you can negotiate a taxi, but you have to do it before you get in. That usually runs $8 to $15 USD for a substantial trip, or you rent a car.
Right.
But wait, I want to talk about this car rental situation because this is wild to me. The going rate is $35 to $55 USD a day, but you can't just open an app and summon an Uber, right?
Absolutely not. There are 0 rideshare apps operating on Rodrigues, none. And the local car rental operators operate almost entirely outside the global digital ecosystem. They vastly prefer cash.
I love this detail. So you take that 50-cent bus ride into Port Mathurin, you step off, and the vibe is just entirely its own.
It's very unique.
You are looking at faded colonial-style houses. There are 0 international chain restaurants, no McDonald's, no Starbucks. And the Saturday market is the absolute heartbeat of the whole island.
The market is crucial to understanding the local economy. It's a sensory explosion. You have stalls of sun-dried octopus, which is a staple, and it is run predominantly by local women.
Yeah, we'll talk about them later.
You have fresh emperor fish and red snapper caught that exact morning, and this is where the local currency reality hits you.
The prices are staggering. You can walk up to a stall and get a huge plate of fried fish, smothered in local rougaille sauce, which is this rich, spiced tomato base served with rice.
Sounds amazing.
It is, and it will run you 150 to 200 Mauritian rupees. Translated, that is $3.30 to $4.40 USD, for a meal that was swimming in the ocean 4 hours ago.
And that market dictates the cultural rhythm. The island doesn't bend to the schedules of international tourists wanting a 9:00 p.m. dinner reservation.
Yeah.
It revolves around the catch of the day, the agricultural cycles, and local transactions. You have to adapt to their pace.
So you've got a full stomach for $4. Now, where do you sleep and what does it actually cost? because the accommodation spectrum here is fascinating.
We can clearly delineate the accommodation into 4 distinct tiers, starting at the entry level, which is the budget tier, what they call the guest house or auberge tier.
Mm.
The island actually has over 122 listed properties in this category, which shows you where their infrastructure priority lies. You are looking at a very accessible entry point of $42 to $55 USD per night.
Let's give a concrete example. There is a place called La Cabane d'été in the fishing village of Baie Malgache, about an 8-minute drive from town.
Great spot.
It consistently runs $48 to $51 USD a night. You get views of the lagoon, and they have bicycles you can rent. Another highly rated one is Auberge du Lagon, which sits in the same price bracket. These are small-scale, deeply personal, family-run spots.
Exactly. You are staying in an extension of a local family's ecosystem. They will often cook you a homemade breakfast for an extra $5 to $8 USD. It is highly authentic, incredibly clean, high-value lodging.
But no luxury perks.
Right, we have to manage expectations. At $48 a night, there is no infinity pool, there is no swim-up bar. You are getting a clean bed, a fan or basic AC, and immense local hospitality.
If you want to step it up, you move to the mid-range tier. The locals call these boutique hotels or lodges. This bracket runs from $95 to $180 USD a night.
That's a nice upgrade.
Bakwa Lodge is the standout here in the research. It sits right on the Opaline Lagoon, and it delivers this genuinely beautiful, stripped-back coastal aesthetic. Depending on the season, that will cost you $120 to $180 USD.
Another major player in the mid-range is Maruk Ebony Hotel, located down at Port Southeast. This place has a massive repeat visitor base, specifically with the diving and kite surfing community.
Oh, because of the location.
Yeah, because it is positioned perfectly near the southern lagoon and the major reef passes.
Yeah.
And if you prefer to be right in the action, such as it is in Port Mathurin, Cocos Hotel is the most convenient base. That runs $95 to $140 USD a night.
Then you hit the upper mid-tier, the boutique resorts. This is where you find Tacoma Boutique Hotel, which is actually managed by the Constance Hotels Group, a known luxury brand in the Indian Ocean.
They did great work.
It's isolated, about 6 miles from town on the eastern coast, and it prices out at $220 to $320 USD a night. You get private plunge pools, an elevated restaurant, a dedicated spa.
Very romantic.
It's heavily favored for anniversary trips. But because it is so remote, if you stay there, you absolutely have to factor a rental car or daily taxi budget into your math.
And finally, we reach the ceiling, the luxury tier. The single full-scale resort option on the island is Cotton Bay Resort and Spa over at Treflis. It has the beachfront real estate, the full spa, the wellness center, the sea view terraces, and the large outdoor pool. The pricing there ranges from $223 to $399 USD per night.
Okay, let's unpack this luxury tier, because my instinct when I hear $399 a night is to expect a certain global standard.
Sure.
I'm expecting the Maldives, I'm expecting Bali, I'm expecting someone to intuitively know my drink order before I sit down. But the guest reviews in our stack of research tell a very different story about Cotton Bay.
They do, and it introduces a vital concept I like to call luxury relativity.
Luxury relativity. Explain that.
Well, if you spend $399 USD a night in Bali, you are tapping into a massive, highly optimized hospitality supply chain. The labor pool of trained hospitality staff is enormous.
Yeah, people go to school for it there.
Right. The agricultural network delivering high-end ingredients is seamless. But on Rodrigues, you are on a rock 560 kilometers from the nearest major landmass. The port depth limits how often large cargo ships can bring in supplies.
That makes sense.
The labor pool is pulled from a population of 44,000 people who traditionally fish and farm, not serve high tea.
So when you are paying $399 a night, it's like buying a designer label in a small town. You're paying a premium for being the only option, not necessarily the best global option. You aren't paying for thread count or flawless invisible service.
No, you are paying for the immense logistical difficulty of keeping a pool chlorinated, a spa staffed, and a diverse menu functioning in total isolation.
Because if something breaks.
If a part for the commercial dishwasher breaks, they can't Amazon Prime a replacement. It has to come on a boat from Port Louis. So comparing it to a Four Seasons in a major hub is a false equivalence. You are paying for monopoly access to resort amenities in a place that shouldn't logically have them.
That is such a crucial mindset shift. So whether you are adjusting your expectations at a $399 resort or leaning into the local charm of a $48 guest house, you still have to eat.
Always.
And the food culture here comes with some unwritten social rules that you absolutely must know.
The cuisine in Rodrigues is honestly one of the most satisfying hidden gems in the Indian Ocean. It is a very rich Creole blend, pulling from African and French colonial history, but it has evolved into something distinctly its own, quite separate from Mauritian food.
What's the main focus?
The economy runs deeply on the ocean and small-scale agriculture. We're talking octopus, a local emperor fish known as capitaine, red snapper, which they call bourgeois, and freshwater crayfish pulled straight from the interior rivers.
And the farming supports it perfectly. Sweet potatoes, local chilies, tomatoes, lentils. The dining costs are phenomenally low for the quality. We already mentioned that $3.30 market plate of fish and rugai.
Incredible.
But even if you want a sit-down experience, say you go to a seafront restaurant down in the village of Ensmaruk, you can get a freshly caught, perfectly grilled octopus for just $8 to $12 USD.
If you want a full mid-range dinner, a nice piece of grilled capitaine, the side of lentils and rice, and a cold local Phoenix beer, you are looking at $18 to $28 USD per person.
Very reasonable.
And even if you go to the nicest restaurants outside the resorts, a two-course dinner for two at a place like Bakwa Lodge or Cocos Hotel will only run a combined $55 to $80 USD.
What if you are self-catering? Say you rented an Airbnb or an auberge with a kitchen, and you hit the supermarket or the smaller neighborhood shops in Port Mathurin.
The prices are pretty good.
The grocery benchmarks we pulled are surprisingly reasonable for an island where almost everything manufactured has to be imported. A liter of milk is about $1.20 USD. A kilo of bulk rice is $1 to $1.40. A dozen eggs is $2.50. You can buy raw crayfish portions at the market for $6 to $9 to cook yourself. A bottle of local Rodrigues honey, which is incredible, it's their main artisan export, is $4 to $7. And a local Phoenix beer from the supermarket is just $1.50 to $2 USD.
Beyond the sheer economics of the food, though, the social etiquette surrounding it is vital to understand. Rodrigues is a socially conservative, Catholic-majority island, living alongside significant Hindu and Muslim minority communities.
So you have to be respectful.
Modest dress is expected, especially when you leave the beach and head into interior villages or anywhere near places of worship.
Which means if you are used to the gated resort beaches in Mauritius where anything goes, you need to recalibrate. Topless sunbathing is considered highly offensive in public areas here. The locals will notice, and they will consider it a deep sign of disrespect to their community.
Tipping is another nuance. It isn't deeply embedded in the culture the way it is in North America or heavily touristed areas.
But you still should.
If you are at a restaurant, leaving 5 to 10% is genuinely noticed and highly appreciated by the staff.
But the absolute most important rule, and I am playfully warning you here, do not mess this up, is the bière de mer rule.
Ah, the honey beer.
Yes, this is a traditional fermented honey beer made in the island's interior. The culture here is incredibly hospitable. If you are invited into a local home or sometimes even a small auberge, and they offer you a glass of bière de miel, you accept it, period.
Yep, no exception.
I don't care if you don't like honey or if you don't drink beer. You take the glass, you smile, and you drink it. Refusing it is a massive social faux pas. It is a gesture of welcome, and rejecting it is essentially rejecting their hospitality.
What's fascinating here is how these culinary elements tie directly into the socio-economic fabric of the island. Take the octopus we keep mentioning.
Right.
The octopus fishing industry is almost entirely dominated by local women, known as piqueuses. They walk out into the shallow lagoons at low tide with iron spears.
That $8 grilled octopus plate you eat on the beach isn't just a cheap, delicious meal.
Exactly. It represents an entire system of economic independence for the women of the island. It gives them financial autonomy. When you buy that meal, you are directly injecting capital into a matriarchal economic engine. The food is a direct reflection of the community's structure.
So, you know the hotel prices, you know the grocery costs, you know not to reject the honey beer. Let's stack it all up. Let's see the exact daily out-of-pocket hit to your wallet based on what kind of traveler you are.
We have itemized the cost benchmarks across 4 distinct traveler profiles. Let's start with the low-budget traveler. You are looking at a total daily spend of $52 to $68 USD.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does a $52 day actually look like?
It looks like this. You are staying in a basic auberge, either splitting the cost or traveling solo, which accounts for $21 to $51 of your budget. Your breakfast is either included or costs you up to $5 for some fresh bread and fruit.
Sounds nice.
You eat lunch at the market for $4 to $8. You find a local spot for dinner for $10 to $15. You use the public bus to get around, costing $1 to $2. And your activity is a long walk along the lagoon or renting snorkel gear for $5 to $12.
So what does this all mean? It means $52 a day is literally cheaper than just existing in most Western cities. You cannot even commute on a train and buy a sad desk salad in London, Sydney, or Toronto for $52. Yet here, you are living on a tropical island.
It's an amazing deal. For the mid-range profile, the budget bumps up to $110 to $155 USD per day.
What does that get you?
In this scenario, you are staying somewhere beautiful, like Bakwa Lodge or Maruk Evany, paying $60 to $90 per person, assuming you're sharing a room. Breakfast runs 8 to 12, a sit-down lunch is 12 to 18, and a nice dinner is 25 to 35.
Nice upgrade on the food.
Yeah, and you split the cost of a rental car, adding $18 to $28 to your daily math. And you amortize the cost of a $35 to $50 guided boat tour over the length of your stay.
That is the sweet spot.
Right.
But what about the high-end luxury traveler?
The luxury traveler is spending $250 to $420 USD per day. That accounts for a stay at Cotton Bay or Tacoma, which is $120 to $200 per person sharing.
Okay.
You are likely eating all your meals in the resort's upscale restaurants, adding $55 to $80 a day. You might charter a private boat to Cocos instead of taking group tour, splitting a $120 to $180 fee, plus throwing in another $30 to $50 for spa treatments or private taxi transfers.
And then there's the fourth profile, the digital nomad. Now, on paper, this looks like a utopian dream. The monthly cost of living here is between $1,800 and $2,600 USD.
Extremely cheap for a month.
That covers a solo stay in a comfortable mid-range guest house, all your meals, and transport. And legally, the Mauritius Premium Visa, which allows remote workers to stay long-term, applies to Rodrigues. But there is a massive, trip-ruining catch for remote workers.
The internet reliability. Inside the small footprint of Port Mathurin, you can find decent fiber connections. But the moment you leave the capital, which is where all the beautiful beaches and lodges are, the tech infrastructure essentially evaporates.
The bandwidth is terrible. Video calls drop constantly.
Furthermore, there are zero co-working spaces on the island. None. It is a beautiful, deeply serene, completely unconnected cage.
Wait, if they are pushing for sustainable economic growth, why would they just lay down better fiber optics and invite wealthy remote workers to stay for 6 months?
Because it's a structural limitation born from an intentional philosophy. The island simply does not want the digital nomad gentrification wave.
They've seen what happens elsewhere.
They have watched what happens to housing prices, local rental markets, and social dynamics in places like Bali, Lisbon, or even parts of Mauritius when thousands of tech workers arrive with strong foreign currencies.
It pushes the locals out.
Right. The lack of high-speed tech infrastructure in the outlying areas acts as a natural and perhaps somewhat deliberate barrier against that type of transient, highly connected population. If you can't work, you can't stay.
Those budgets look fantastic on a spreadsheet, but our research identified 3 hidden, highly specific landmines that will blow that budget to pieces if you aren't paying close attention. Let's walk through the traps.
Trap number 1 is what we call the Mauritius connection illusion. If you look at almost every digital booking site or travel blog, they present Rodrigues as a simple, easy, casual add-on to a larger Mauritius trip.
Which is technically true in terms of distance.
But practically perilous in terms of execution.
Right, because my instinct as a traveler is, oh, I'll just fly into Mauritius, spend a few days, and whenever I feel like it, I'll buy a $150 hopper flight over to Rodrigues.
And that instinct will get you stranded. Air Mauritius only runs 2 to 3 flights a day, mostly concentrated in the morning.
They sell out fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you book your long-haul international flight to Mauritius and assume you can casually buy the $120 to $200 one-way hop to Rodrigues when you land, you will find it completely sold out.
And the financial result of that illusion is brutal. You are suddenly stuck at the airport in Mauritius.
Yeah.
You have to pay for an unplanned $80 to $150 USD hotel stay just to wait for the next available flight, which might be 2 days away.
Or worse.
Right. If you mess up the return sector and miscalculate the connection, you miss your international flight back to Sydney or London, and you have to pay $180 to $220 USD in change fees to rebook.
It's a nightmare.
The fix here is non-negotiable. You must book your Mauritius to Rodrigues round-trip flights simultaneously with your international flights directly through the Air Mauritius portal. Do not treat it as an afterthought.
Trap number 2 is the car rental cash reality. We established that you need a car. The island's beauty is spread across its 18-kilometer length, and the buses are unpredictable.
You definitely want one.
But if you walk out of the airport expecting a sterile Hertz or budget rental desk with digital card processing and a PDF QR code on your phone, you are going to be in for a shock.
It is exactly like showing up to a rural, dusty farmer's market on a Sunday morning and trying to pay for tomatoes with Apple Pay. The vendor is just going to look at you. You have to play by the local analog rules.
Yes. And where this becomes a trap is when travelers try to pre-book a car through Expedia or a third-party global aggregator. Often that leads to total confusion on the ground.
The reservation gets lost.
The car you thought you booked online magically doesn't exist when you get to the local kiosk, or the aggregator's price doesn't match the local rate. The insurance documentation is entirely informal.
So how do you avoid standing in the sun with no car?
The fix is to rely on local human networks. Contact your guest house or auberge a month before you travel. They all have direct, personal relationships with local car owners and operators.
Let them handle it.
Right. The guest house will broker a confirmed rate of $35 to $50 USD per day on your behalf. The car will be waiting for you. And crucially, you must bring USD, euros, or Mauritian rupees in physical cash to pay for the rental and the deposit.
Trap number 3 is the ILO Cocos booking collapse. We mentioned this earlier, but we need to dive into how it ruins trips. This protected seabird reserve is on every single itinerary.
It's the highlight for many.
It is the hero shot of every Instagram post about the island. But here's the stark reality. They legally cap the daily visitors to protect the nesting frigate bird colonies. In the peak regional travel months of July and August, the $35 to $50 boat tour sells out 4 to 7 days in advance.
The trap springs when visitors arrive on a Monday, settle into their hotel, and try to book the boat tour for Wednesday. They are told it is completely unavailable for the entire duration of their 5-day trip.
Heartbreaking.
They flew all the way there and missed the marquee experience. The fix is proactive. Book the excursion via a reputable local operator. Découverte Rodrigues is heavily recommended in the sources weeks before you leave home. Build your entire island itinerary around that one confirmed date.
So what does this all mean for the traveler? It means that none of these traps are scams. You aren't being hustled by malicious operators. These are simply the realities of a system that prioritizes human relationships, cash in hand, and ecological preservation over frictionless digital algorithms.
You just have to know how it works.
You have to adapt to them. Now, if you dodge those logistical traps, how safe are you actually going to feel navigating this island?
From a purely security-based standpoint, Rodrigues is easily one of the lowest-risk destinations in the Indian Ocean, perhaps globally, in 2026. The violent crime rate is virtually non-existent. Because of the tiny size of the island and the tight-knit nature of a 44,000-person community where everyone knows everyone's family, the large-scale, systematic tourist scams you see in major hubs just do not have the oxygen to exist.
That's reassuring.
There are isolated reports of minor petty theft from unlocked rental cars parked at very remote beaches, but it is exceptionally rare.
For solo female travelers, the outlook in our sources is highly positive. The socially conservative culture translates to generally respectful street interactions. You don't get the aggressive haggling or catcalling found in some other global tourist traps.
No, the vibe is very calm.
But the main risk isn't crime. It is what you call logistical isolation. What does that actually mean on a practical level?
Logistical isolation is the difference between an inconvenience and a crisis. If you get a flat tire in a city, it's annoying. You call a tow truck, you grab a coffee. If your rental car breaks down in a dead zone valley on the eastern side of Rodrigues as the sun is setting, with absolutely no bars of cellular service on your phone and no streetlights, that can feel like a genuine survival moment. You are completely on your own.
So how do you mitigate that?
2 simple steps. First, download offline Google Maps for the entire island while you are on your hotel Wi-Fi. The GPS still tracks perfectly without cell service.
Smart.
Second, always inform your guest house owner of your daily plans. Say, I am driving to Trou d'Argent and will be back by dinner. If you don't show up, they know exactly which road to send help down.
What about families?
The island is fantastic, provided your kids are around 10 years or older. They're old enough to handle the boat trips, the snorkeling, and they will absolutely love the Francois Legoit Giant Tortoise Reserve.
How much is that?
That costs $25 to $35 USD and is an incredible conservation success story. But if you have toddlers who require shaded kiddie pools, constant resort entertainment, and pureed resort food, it's a very tough destination to manage.
I want to touch on the so-called scams again, because I see complaints online, but they really just seem to be misaligned expectations. When you hire a taxi or a private boat, they quote prices verbally. It is all sealed with a handshake.
Yes.
There are no written contracts or printed receipts. You have to be very clear and agree on the total price, exactly what is included, and the exact return time before you step foot on the boat or in the car.
What's fascinating here is how we view trust. Relying on a handshake rather than a 6-page legal waiver or a digital deposit is a defining feature of a high-trust society. To them, it is a feature, not a bug.
They expect you to keep your word.
They deeply trust their word, and they fully expect you to honor yours. When a tourist gets upset because there is no paper receipt, it's a clash of cultures, not a scam.
Regarding health and physical safety, the hospital in Port Mathurin is functional but extremely basic. Any serious trauma or complex medical issue requires a specialized medical evacuation flight back to Mauritius.
You don't want to mess around with that.
Therefore, travel insurance with explicit high-limit medevac coverage is strictly non-negotiable. Do not fly there without it. Also, bring high-quality Dietland repellent. The mosquitoes are a constant presence.
Assuming you're safely navigating the island, respecting the culture, and avoiding the traps, let's talk about the payoff. What are the absolute peaks of a Rodrigues trip, and what are the honest, crushing letdowns?
Let's start with the peaks. The absolute zenith of this trip is the snorkeling. Because of that self-seeding reef we talked about, you get 20 to 25 meters of visibility on a calm day.
It's crystal clear.
You are swimming among endemic fish that exist literally nowhere else on the planet. And because there is no mass tourism boat traffic churning up the water, you can anchor your small boat and feel completely alone in the Indian Ocean. A full guided lagoon tour, usually including a beach barbecue lunch, only costs $45 to $65 USD. The value is unparalleled.
Another massive peak is Cocos at dawn. Taking that 30 to 45-minute boat ride out to the reserve before the midday heat, walking within mere meters of thousands of nesting frigate birds and red-tailed tropic birds. It's a David Attenborough documentary come to life.
And honestly, for me, the Saturday market is a peak moment. Just sitting there on a plastic chair with absolutely no agenda, eating a $4 plate of fresh fish and rougae, drinking a $1.50 Phoenix beer, and watching the island's working economy function around you.
It's the best ROI on the island.
It's authentic in a way money can't fabricate. Plus, doing the Cavern Patati Stalactite cave tour for $15 to $25 is genuinely impressive. You don't expect a massive cave system on such a tiny island.
But we have to be objective and look at the flip side, the honest disappointments. The beach quality is the first major reality check.
Right. It's an island, so people expect perfect beaches everywhere.
Oh, they do, but the beaches are not uniform. Trou d'Argent, tucked away in the northeast, is visually stunning, dramatic cliffs, hidden coves, but it requires a 20 to 30-minute drive and a hike to get there from most accommodations.
So it's not right outside your door.
Exactly. The easily accessible beaches near Port Mathurin and the populated areas are pleasant, but they're often shallow, sometimes a bit muddy at low tide, and they are definitely not the endless white powder, crystal clear scenes you see on Maldivian brochures.
And then there is the luxury accommodation ceiling, which we covered but bears repeating as a potential letdown. Paying $399 for a resort expecting flawless, intuitive luxury is a guaranteed path to heartbreak.
Setting yourself up for failure.
Comparing Cotton Bay to a $120 Bali boutique makes sense. Comparing it to a global 5-star brand is going to leave you feeling robbed. Not to mention the total lack of reliable internet connectivity for remote workers outside the capital.
Ultimately, Rodrigues versus a total breakdown of the psychology of travel expectations.
Yeah.
It forces the traveler to redefine what value means.
Right.
You have to value pristine isolation, raw ecology, and genuine authenticity over high thread counts, infinity pools, and instant digital gratification. If you can't make that psychological pivot, you will be disappointed.
So, if the lack of high-speed internet, the lack of white powder beaches at your doorstep, or the lack of luxury service is a deal breaker for you, where should you go instead? Let's treat this like a choose-your-own-adventure book.
I like that.
Yeah.
If you want raw nature but better infrastructure, alternative one is Reunion Island. It is essentially a department of France located in the Indian Ocean.
How does the cost compare?
It runs about $120 to $160 USD per day for a mid-range trip, making it slightly more expensive than Rodrigues' $110 to $155.
But the terrain is completely different.
Dramatically different.
Right.
Reunion features Piton de la Fournaise, which is a highly active volcano. You have extreme world-class hiking up in the UNESCO-listed CERT.
And the roads.
Robust, European standard infrastructure, great roads, great hospitals, excellent bakeries. It is the raw Jurassic Park nature experience combined with French efficiency.
Or if you want the classic resort experience, you go with alternative 2, the Mauritius main island. This is the curated, glossy resort life. It runs higher, about $180 to $260 USD per day for a mid-range trip.
In Mauritius, you get perfectly paved highways, massive dining diversity from high-end sushi to steakhouses, and incredibly reliable manicured beaches.
But it's busy.
Very busy. It is a heavily mediated experience. It is driven by the global tourism industry and is actively trending toward over-tourism.
It all comes down to economic trade-offs. You are paying a $70 to $100 daily premium to be in Mauritius. That premium buys you absolute predictability, polish, and convenience.
But you lose something, too.
You entirely sacrifice the unmanaged, quiet, fishing village time capsule authenticity that Rodrigues offers.
We've looked at the alternatives, we've broken down the costs, we've exposed the traps, and laid out the facts. It is time for the final matrix.
Let's do it. Is it worth it? We are going to deliberately break this down by traveler type, starting with the backpacker.
For the backpacker, the verdict is a resounding yes. Absolutely. At a daily burn rate of $52 to $68 USD a day, it is one of the most affordable tropical experiences left on Earth.
But the flights.
Right. The only true barrier is that massive $2,377 to $2,600 initial flight from a global hub. But, and this is key, if you're already traveling to Mauritius on a broader trip, adding Rodrigues is just a $240 to $400 round-trip internal flight.
Oh, that makes total sense.
At that marginal cost, it is an unambiguous, absolute yes.
What about the mid-range traveler? The couple with a $150 a day budget.
Yes, strongly. $110 to $155 a day yields massive value here. The $45 to $65 reef tour alone justifies the trip.
Wow.
This demographic gets the absolute highest value to experience ratio possible on the island. You stay in beautiful auberges, eat incredible seafood, and don't feel financially stressed.
Let's look at the family traveler.
This is a conditional yes.
Yeah.
It is a fantastic educational and adventurous trip if your kids are 10 and older. But if we were talking about a family with toddlers looking at $223 to $399 a night for Cotton Bay, it is a very hard sell.
Yeah, that's tough.
Parents of toddlers really need built-in frictionless resort infrastructure, kids clubs, easy pool access, predictable food. To actually have a relaxing holiday, Rodrigues makes you work too hard for that.
And for the luxury traveler, if you are a luxury traveler expecting someone to hand you a cold towel the second you step on the sand, cross this off your list right now.
Exactly. The verdict is no. The $399 ceiling simply doesn't deliver global luxury standards. You have to expect pristine isolation, not butler service. If you want high-touch, invisible service, go to the Maldives or a 5-star property in Mauritius.
Finally, what about the digital nomad?
Yes, but only for a very short stay. The $1,800 to $2,600 monthly budget is incredibly enticing, but the internet connectivity issues mean a 7 to 10-day trip is the optimal window.
Don't try to work full-time.
No. Attempting a full month of relying on that infrastructure for crucial Zoom meetings or large file uploads is just too risky for your career.
So, synthesizing all of this, Rodrigues is worth it exactly because it hasn't bent to the will of mass tourism. It is stubborn. It demands that the visitor adapt to the island's pace, the island's cash economy, and the island's ecology, not the other way around.
Which leaves us with this final thought to consider. In a world where every single inch of the globe is seemingly optimized for our instant convenience, is the highest form of luxury actually finding a place that simply refuses to cater to you?
If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.